Welcome to the Get Offset podcast. My name is Emily.
And my name is Andrew.
And did you see that new Gibson guitar this week?
I did, which is kind of a bummer for me because up until this week, I owned the ugliest thing that Gibson has ever created.
Which was, the Gibson beanie with the little bill.
Oh, can I get it on over my hat? Here we go. There you go.
Wow. Your regular Tim Pool.
Yep. So,
man,
I think it's hideous and I think it's overpriced. But if someone else likes it and enjoys it, whatever.
I'll agree. It's expensive. It looks like those kind of flowery Japanese guitars of that era in which it was designed.
Sure.
But
kind of like Tysco situation.
Yeah, very much so. I wish that they had really committed to certain elements of it. I noticed that they changed like where the pickup selector knob was. They changed the design of the pick guard and the headstock. I'm like, just commit fully.
Me.
And also maybe $5,000.
You know what I will say is, for all the shit we've given Gibson over the years for not getting out of their bubble and trying something new, they're trying something new, and it's not the worst thing they could have done.
It's new old stock.
It's a compromise. This is a step in some direction for Gibson.
It's different for them.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't hate it. Some people hated it a lot. I just
I don't have the energy to hate it, if I'm honest. I'm like, all right. It's not for me. Move on.
Yeah. It's just very expensive.
Yeah. But, I mean, Gibson seems committed to being considered a luxury brand.
That's fine.
So that's their branding choice. I don't think the price tag reflects the quality of what you're getting. I think it's just a brand thing.
That's where the problem kind of comes in, doesn't it? Like when you're buying an Hermes handbag, you know you're getting like hand stitching and quality and something that very few people have.
Like a brand. Let's be honest. That's also a branding thing. Like there's value in the name.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Hermes bags.
No diggity. Gonna bag it up.
Oh my God. It's too early for that, man.
So I was talking to somebody at work the other day, and come to find out they're a flat earther. And I was like, I was just flat, like, wait, you people actually exist?
This better be a joke. Is this a joke?
And so they said, tell you what, I'm saving up money so I can afford to walk to the edge to prove it to everybody. And I said, okay, well, I'm sure you'll come around eventually.
Yeah. Yep, that is indeed a joke. Thank the Lord.
Yep.
Thank the Lord. But I saw the
that one fall a little flat.
But I don't have that sound effect anymore. I accidentally deleted it. Which is for the best, because if I went to play it, it would just go in our soundboard because that's how Zencaster rolls. When I was touring in Denton, and I was touring in Texas, we played a show in Denton, and we went past the flat. There's a very famous flat earther house, and yeah. That guy seems pretty serious. Let me tell you, he seems pretty serious.
Was the flat earther house like one of those like commune globe style homes?
No, it's just like a house in a neighborhood. But it's just like kind of in the middle of Denton, and it just has like signs in the windows and stuff, and like he's like graffitied over his own house and stuff that just talks about how the earth is flat, and like I think points to websites, probably his websites. It's pretty
affiliate marketing.
Buy my books. You can go to the next level, up level.
Yep.
It's a pyramid scheme because we don't believe in globes.
Help me, Tom Cruise.
Oh my God. So, anything new with you?
What's new with me? I got pink eye for the second time in like 2 weeks.
Sweet Jesus. What is this episode? People are going to be turning it off. Like, oh my God.
No, so it's viral. It's because I've got a recurring sinus infection that keeps like spreading out and it won't go away. It's like I can feel my sinuses are still like just plugged up. Otherwise, I'm completely fine. But it was in my left eye a couple weeks ago, and then I thought I was getting better, so I stopped taking my sinus medicine. And then it came back and got worse and then migrated to the other one. So, yep.
I'm sorry, man. That sucks. I've never had pink eye, but that sounds awful.
And eye drops are my nemesis. Like, the only thing I hate more than eye drops is needles. And even then, like, it's pretty close.
Yeah, I used to be really needle phobic until I had to get an IV at the hospital. And ever since, I'm like, I think that just kind of like, what's the word for when you have a phobia and then you're just exposed, like exposure therapy, basically.
Yeah.
I think just staring at this needle in my arm for a few hours, I was like, it's not so bad.
No, I had heart surgery in 2013. They tried like 5 times on my left arm, like probably another 5 times on my right arm, then like 3 more times in the back of my hand to get the IV to finally go. That was a traumatic experience. And they're like, it's lunchtime. And it was at a German hospital. So lunch was like a brochin and some liver pate. I'm like, I guess I'll eat it. But
yeah, I'm lucky that I have
I'm not used to this.
Very easy to find veins. They always say that, like, oh, you have great veins. Your veins are so easy to find. I'm like, yeah, thanks.
Mine are easy to find. They just disappear the moment the needle touches skin.
Sneaky.
The rollers. Holy rollers. But we'll come back to that part later.
Oh, my God. And will we? Will we ever? So,
unfortunately.
Joan in our Patreon group, because we have a Patreon Discord server, for those who didn't know, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/getoffset. If you join at $5 a month or above, you get access to our exclusive Discord server and you can ask us questions. So Joan asked us what our favorite pedals were of the year thus far. And I have to say, I still think that the Death by Audio germanium filter is one of my favorites. I demoed that one, I believe, back in January. So I think that's one of my favorites so far this year. The Old Blood Noise XS V2 is one of my favorites. And the Catalan Bread Phaser is a favorite. The Big Ear Pizza Fuzz. But man, that Death by Audio germanium, where my brain happened.
The filter?
Yeah, the germanium filter. It's so versatile. I know people really liked it dimed, but even those the subtler sounds really added a lot of character. It just sounded like a really nice it could sound like just a really nice kind of gritty preamp for some vintagey tones.
Sure.
And so I think it's just like a really nice, versatile, sound gooder type of pedal. So I really love it. And I highly recommend it.
Magical fairy dust pedal?
Magical. And despite what one commenter kept saying, did not cost $350. It's like $229.
It's expensive. Inflation is terrible.
Yeah, that's the one where the guy kept commenting, it's $350. It better sound good for $350. So I kept responding, but it's not $350. And he kept doubling down that he had seen it for $350 somewhere. And I kept replying, that doesn't mean it's the price everywhere.
That just means you almost got, you know what it probably was? I bet you he was drunk on Reverb late at night and accidentally ordered the one shipping from Italy for $350.
No.
And now he's embarrassed.
What I think it was is he looked up Death by Audio filter and saw the price for their evil filter, which is significantly more expensive.
That's also plausible. Yep.
That's my guess.
I think that's likely.
He never even dropped a link to prove that somehow it's $350. He was just rude. Oh man, he was
Thanks
so
for the
mad.
engagement, buddy.
I think I eventually said that.
That's
one where people started jumping in and saying, "What is your dealio?" Let's see. I wonder if it's still up, or if he deleted it. Because sometimes they delete it. Oh yeah, really great pedal at $355. I guess it better be me. It's not $355. And then he said, okay, I did see it for $355. I didn't make that price up. It was $355. Me, I have no idea what you are talking about. It is not $355. I think you are mistaken. It is okay to admit that you are mistaken. The guy did see it for price online. Also saw it for $250-ish, but I did see it on one site for $355. Condescending to others is ugly, do better. And then I responded, laughing my ass off, what? And then someone else responded, maybe you should take your own advice. Making ugly comments makes you ugly, do better. Then our friend Tom said, where? I literally copied the pedal name and I've only found $225, aside from one lone German seller. And then the original guy said, sorry for your ignorance, wasn't trying to further your misunderstanding of the situation as it was explained. And then someone said to me, and then that same guy said to me, maybe if you read what was there instead of replying ignorantly. And then I said, I read it and reread it, and you are still dying on a hill, instead of saying, oh, my bad, I guess I had wrong info there. And someone else responded, sorry, M, he's mistaken. He had bad information. And then
alternative news.
And then some smiley faces and laughing emojis.
I only subscribe to facts spelled with a PH.
So this is my daily reminder that if you're wrong about something like small, the smaller it is, the easier I think it should be to be like, oh, my bad.
I agree.
I can think of few things smaller to be wrong about than like the price
of tea in China. Yeah. No, it doesn't sound like he was very level-headed.
For the listeners, Andrew has placed a level on the bill of his hat, so he is level-headed. You're in a mood.
I am in a mood.
So excitable.
I'm feeling feisty.
Feisty.
It's probably because I accidentally dropped an extra caffeinated hydration tablet in my water this morning.
What? You did what?
So I usually start off every morning with it's a Nun tablet. It's got 80 milligrams of caffeine and electrolytes and all that stuff. And realistically, it's just forcing me to drink water first thing instead of going straight to coffee. And I usually do one in a pint of water, which is like double the amount of water that you actually need. And I actually dropped 2, which means 160 milligrams of caffeine.
That's 2 cups of coffee.
It's 2 strong cups of coffee, yeah.
I think a cup of coffee. Oh, bye, Carrie. It's like about 100 milligrams of caffeine.
Well,
isn't it?
I thought it was less than that, but I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a barista.
I think it's like a Diet Coke is like 80 milligrams of caffeine.
No. Coke is 45?
Really? Caffeine per
44?
Caffeine content in various coffees. Oh, I'm curious now.
I know Arabica is less than Robusta.
Espresso is 70 milligrams. Brewed coffee is 100 milligrams.
Oh, gotcha.
Arabica. Arabica is 70 milligrams. Robusta is 140 milligrams.
Yep. Robusta, not super common, but typically what you see like Thai iced coffee is made out of. which is why that stuff just wrecks in terms of caffeine content.
It says this chart says cold brew varies, but a lot.
Yeah,
it's like that a lot.
Yeah, I got cold brew in my fridge right now, and I plan on moving to that after this. I'm just gonna be wired today. It's gonna be great.
I do in the morning. Usually, I do Copper Cow, like 2 pours of Copper Cow in a latte, and then I do Jot as an iced coffee. And on the weekends, I more often do when I have time, Nguyen Vietnamese style thin filter kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
You should use Robusta beans for that.
Let's see. What do I have? Nguyen coffee.
Robusta is not typically favored over Arabica because it's got a bit more of a bitter tanniny thing going on.
I use their True Grit. I think that's what I bought. And it says 25% stronger.
So maybe
it's Robusta.
Okay.
Berry Robusta.
Well, there you go. Good choice.
Which is good because I have a gig coming up on April 6th. I am playing guitar in a John Prine tribute show. And I have 19 John Prine songs to learn.
Nice.
Yeah, apparently most of the singers are bringing acoustic guitars. We're still trying to figure out which are and which aren't. So today I'm just going to chart out all the songs. I might go on live for that just because I think it would be fun. And just kind of note which ones have stronger electric parts that I should learn.
Sure.
More verbatim. Yeah, it's just going to be about figuring out what songs I definitely need to learn the acoustic parts on, which songs I have electric parts I could learn.
I mean, when in doubt, you could do the worship guitar player thing, which is just swell chords in the background quietly with a lot of reverb.
There are going to be some songs where I'm going to be doing that a little bit.
Yeah.
But it is country music, so probably going to bring the G&L with the B-bender for funsies. I'm going to bring an Acoustasonic.
Oh.
Ooh.
Bold.
Yes, I thought so. I'm going to bring an Acoustasonic.
Do it. Which one are you going to bring? It's the real question.
I think the Jazzmaster American sounds better, but the charging thing on it always kind of concerns me a little.
Sure.
So, I don't know. Probably that one.
There you go.
I think the larger body just means it sounds better, but I've been playing the Telecaster mostly. They're fun. People who don't like them, that's fine.
They don't know how to have fun.
That's cool.
Speaking of having fun, I am rolling out of town here in a couple hours.
Oh, doing anything fun?
I'm going to Bellingham for the night.
Nice.
Yeah, I got a buddy who's on a business trip up there for the week and convinced his company to allow him to stay for the weekend and then pay for his flight back on Monday on company time.
Oh.
So he could hang out. And so I'm syncing up with him this evening, and I think the plan is mini golf and beers. And it's maybe some hiking, and weather permitting, he does a film production, and he's got a drone with a camera on it. So weather permitting, we're going to play around with that. We'll see what happens. You
should go to Champlin Guitars.
I was thinking about it because they're right down the street from where I wanted to get breakfast in the morning. Is that Chamber Coffee?
I know that guy. He's a really nice guy. Makes some really cool guitars.
Yeah, I know. I think they're also. Oh, were they moving shop locations? I'll look it up. If they're open, I'll drop by.
I just Googled it. It says they open at 11, but that doesn't mean anything.
Sure.
The website doesn't say anything, but yeah. Because I know he builds guitars. I just want to see one of them.
Yeah, I remember I was down there a couple years ago and I met him. It'd be fun to stop by again.
Yeah. They posted a week ago that they are looking for somebody part-time. I don't see anything about them moving imminently, so I think you might be good.
Probably just think of something else.
Maybe. My friend Alex from Cumulus lives up there now.
Fun.
Yeah. I like Bellingham. It's nice.
Yeah, and springtime should be fine. I know we're starting to get a lot of flowers down here. I'm hoping it's not that much colder up there where it's not going to be all the tulips and stuff. Daffodils.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind because my allergy is goodness. I'm
sure that's not helping my recurring sinus infection.
I am in pain. I am suffering. I am in it.
Yep. Bless you.
Thank you. I'm doing great. I'm doing so great.
Good.
So we were talking about prices of stuff, and I know that Tom also had questions. With prices increasing, have expectations of certain price brackets changed? Have the price brackets changed? Or is it just not really? I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now.
I think it's like with Squiers getting more expensive is kind of what he's saying. Are people expecting more from them? Because I saw a post the other day of someone got a Squier and the string tree was obviously in the wrong spot. Like over a couple of like a centimeter or so. So it was tugging the string a little too far. Yeah, they're like, would you send it back?
Yeah.
And I thought, I would probably fix it.
If it wasn't a matching, if it was a matching headstock, I'd probably send it back.
It was not.
Then just re-drill and call it a day.
Re-drill, Phil. Call it a day. This person opted to send it back, which is fine. I think that is your prerogative if you are getting a guitar like that.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
But I think when you're getting a Squier, as someone else said in the comments, it's a Squier, so like maybe your string tree will be in the right place next time. And just for the viewers who maybe don't know, because I prefer to have good educational content, the string tree or string retainer is right there on the headstock, and it helps with the tension of the strings.
Yep.
Or the break angle behind the nut. So somebody said in the comments, maybe the string retainer is going to be in the right spot. Maybe something else will be wrong next time. It is a cheaper guitar. This did look like their tribute series, so their 50th anniversary series. I would expect a slightly more attention to detail on that. Sure.
I think it's fine to hold them accountable for bad QC. That probably shouldn't have made it out of the factory. So
yeah. At the same time, they're like when I got my baritone, a lot of people complained about the output jack. And I agree. The output jack was indeed a little bit loose on mine. Apparently it was looser on others. I replaced it ultimately. So it wasn't a huge deal for me. And I don't feel like sending it back would have gotten me a better product.
Sure.
So, with Squiers, I think you kind of get them, and the expectation is a good base, and that you upgrade like the hardware and the electronics, generally speaking. I don't personally get a Squier and expect to want to keep everything stock. And in fact, I rarely do. I think the only times I have kept everything stock on a Squier were the Contemporary series. And full disclosure, I sold those relatively quickly, not because I didn't like them, but just because I needed room.
Sure. Yeah. So here's my thought on that, so Squier, yes, we've always just kind of assumed Squier was going to be, it's a Squier. I think that the QC's dropped a little bit more in recent years based on the number of times I'm seeing these things come up. But all of that aside, at one point, maybe it has, maybe it hasn't, maybe it's just perception. But the point that I'm getting to is, how does Squier in its current price range compare to other offerings in the same price range? And so for $500, what could you get? Because is Squier the best thing you could get, or is there something else that is going to have better QC? You're not going to need to replace electronics in it. You're not going to have to fix a string tree and still be happy with. And so that starts to become a question of branding, kind of similar to what we were just razzing on Gibson for. Is it turning into is the Squier branding becoming a thing, or is this really just inflation? Everything surrounding it is just going up in price, and that's just the world we live in now, where we're paying 2003 made Mexico prices for a current Squier.
Yeah, things are just getting more expensive in general. And I think that a lot of people are saying now, like, hey, remember when the pandemic started, everybody bought guitars, and we're like, oh, in a couple of years, those will all be on the used marketplace because no one's going to be playing guitar. Like, I don't know if Fender Play and other educational resources are just doing a great job at, like, keeping people engaged with their hobby and instrument. I've seen some people cycle through some hobbies, but guitar's not one I've seen people cycle through as much.
My experience with people who, so my experience, just completely anecdotal, and I'd be curious if there's any data on this, but people who came in to sell guitars at Guitar Center, who had given up on guitar, very rarely it was like, yeah, I bought this guitar 3 months ago, decided this hobby isn't for me. Like, that just didn't happen. It was I bought this for my kid 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And they finally moved out and decided it was time to see what I could get for it.
Yeah.
That was so much more frequently what it was.
That makes sense.
It's inconvenient.
Hold on hope.
It's holding on for hope. It's also just the reality for a lot of families who can afford to buy the guitar in the first place for, like a $400 Squier for their kid or for themselves. Selling it back for $225 isn't worth their time. Yeah.
That's fair. And I don't know. It takes a while to get rid of things.
Yep.
I think just like across the board, like I look at the things that I've accumulated elsewhere in my life, and I keep things way past when I should have gotten rid of them. Same. Rick and I have hired a professional organizer to just literally help us get rid of things. And it helps. It helps having a neutral party there who's not judgmental. And it's just like, because when it's just the two of us, it's like, well, this is my thing. Are you going to get rid of a thing? It almost like, it's not like a competition or like anything like that, but it's just like, it feels more personal. But when there's a third party there, you're like, well, like your guard is down a little bit. And you're like, I don't need these hats. I don't need this. I don't need that. And it feels less about that.
Sure.
So, but like my parents didn't get rid of a lot of my like beginner guitars even until I left for college and kind of gave my approval to like get rid of them.
Sure.
And I think a lot of people who like give up guitars, not for them, like they still want to keep the guitar around. Sure.
I think I'm sure there's an element of like, for people who bought it during the pandemic, there's a degree of trauma bonding of this is my buddy that got me through some dark times kind of a thing. Even if they don't like still play it anymore, just keep it on the wall. I had a buddy who had a Gibson SG, couldn't hardly play guitar, but he kept it on his wall because it reminded him of some nostalgic times.
Yeah.
It was comforting for him. And I felt bad because like the strings were clearly rusty. The thing needed help. The fretboard needed to be oiled. And I offered at one point in time, like, can I like help you get that back up and running? He's like, if you really wanted to, but it's not like I'm going to play it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's people like that out there and I think that's fine. The other thing thought that crossed my mind is we get people who are finally ready to sell their guitar, and they would bring it back in, say, I would like to sell this. And then we'll give them the quote back and say, well, it's going to be, used value is already like at best 70% of what you paid new. And then of that 70%, we can only offer you 60% because we need a profit margin. So you're really only going to get half to less than half of what you originally paid for it. And at that point, they just sit there and do the calculus of, I'd rather just have it. It feels, whether it be the way that they value it for themselves, or whether it be the way that they value how demoralizing it can feel to have that. It's you roll a car off the lot and it loses 40% of its value kind of used car mentality.
Not anymore, though. Not with used cars.
Not with used cars. Nope.
No.
You buy that thing at Kelley Blue Book, you made money.
Oh my God. Like I saw a video of a woman who she bought a car right before the pandemic, and she took it in to get a quote, just to get a quote to see a new car. And she, I think, technically made $15. $15. 2 years later.
Wild.
Obviously, that's not accounting for interest payments and things like that. And it was just a quote. She didn't sell the car.
Yeah.
But, like, I've never heard of such a thing happening.
Yep. That's, it's ridiculous. I was actually just talking to Melissa about this last night, because I'm like, could we get away with one car and just sell the other one at ridiculous markup and then, wait a few years for prices to come back down, and would that be worth it? And because the problem is, like, you could sell a car for a profit right now, but you're not going to then
you want to buy Rick and I's car?
You're not going to buy another car after that for any better value.
No, that's the thing. It's like selling a house right now in a lot of cities, including ours. Like, okay, cool. You can make, like, my neighbor is selling his house for $150 over what he asked.
Sure.
His townhouse. $150 over what he asked. And okay, so where do you go?
Exactly. Yeah. Contextualized, making up money just means you're keeping up with what the market value is, not that you've made $250,000.
You buy a mountainside cabin in, like, the middle of Idaho. Like, cool.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
That sounds like awesome, honestly. There are days where it's just like, all I want on this earth is to be left alone. That's all I want.
Yeah.
And then there are days where I'm like, I love people.
Yep.
And yeah, but that's the thing. I think that maybe I don't know if anyone's done, like, the inflation math over, like, if you bought a Squier for this amount of money in 1995, then this is what it would cost right now. Like, I literally don't know. Like, sure, what did a Squier cost in 1995? I don't know. I was 6.
I don't know. I'm not sure it ultimately matters, though. Just contextualize. It's the sort of thing where, it's just market value. And if it just matches inflation, it's not, unless it's a collector's item that goes way above, then you've made money. Holding on to something for 15 years and saying, I made money. And it's like, well, no, that's just, adjust for inflation. You just kept up.
Wow. So. It's like my father-in-law looking at the value of his house and being like, wow, I bought this house for, and then, like, a smaller number. And I'm like, but the thing is, you can't sell this house for that estimate because you haven't done any remodeling. Like, it still looks like the 70s. It still has wood paneling. There's still carpet in the bathrooms. The kitchen is still, like, pink and green. Like, you cannot sell this house for that amount of money, like what your neighbors are, because they've put money into it.
Sure.
And you saved a lot of money not doing renovations and not, like, doing stylistic changes. But on the flip side, you are going to get less money for it if you ever decide to sell it, which is a big if.
Because people are just they're gonna look at that and say, cool, this is a good base, but we're gonna tear pretty much everything out and start over. And
it's gonna go to flippers for a small amount of money, or Rick's going to inherit it and rent it out to college students.
Which also isn't options. A terrible, that's not terrible either. But
no, not bad.
Those
are the options.
Yep.
But, hopefully it doesn't happen for a very long time, but.
Right. Of course.
And then it'll be back in style.
There you go.
Just waiting for it to come back in style. Wood paneling. Oh, yeah. Oh, I love the vintage aesthetic of the carpet in the bathrooms.
Yep. That's terrifying.
Worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
So, in terms of inflation for the guitar market, I mean, everything's going up. I think that's a big part of it. It's just everything period is going up. Now, root cause of that, I'm not an economist, but I admit a little bit of pessimism if I'm comparing like record profits, but also record inflation. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's a salient point. Maybe I just sound really dumb. But the fact of the matter is everything seems to be just skyrocketing and the dollar's not going as far as it did a year ago. And that's just the world we live in. I think we're going to be stuck in it for a little bit. So,
I mean, I think inflation is going up pretty much worldwide as are costs. So I think that's something that Americans tend to keep forgetting a little bit, is that like everybody's kind of going through it right now.
Sure.
So
it's also an election year, and there's certain people and companies who have interest in trying to make political figures look bad by raising prices on things artificially. But I didn't tell you that. Don't trust anyone.
You said it, not me, dude.
Keep it secret. Keep it safe.
Everyone thinks I'm the political one. Everyone thinks I'm the political one.
What? No, I'm just here to be fair and balanced.
Oh my God. Rick and I have been watching American Crime Story impeachment, the Bill Clinton trial thing. Because we were both pretty young when that happened, but like old enough to kind of remember it. Ooh, man, I do not like Linda Tripp. Do not like. Like, I do not. Yeah. There were some surprising people. I'm like, man, these people are all still kind of famous. Damn. Ugh. So many. George Conway's in it, Kellyanne Conway's husband, and Ann Coulter. Yeah. Matt Drudge. From the Drudge Report.
Yeah.
Gross. Brett Kavanaugh. Brett.
Oh, what was it? It was the Comedy Central like roast or whatever. Who was that roast for? But when it was a roast of somebody. I remember Ann Coulter was arbitrarily invited just so they could all like roast her extra hard.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It was like,
I don't remember who that was or why.
I just remember Pete Davidson went off on that one. Oh,
she's horrible.
Yeah.
She's so mean.
But anyways, so that's the world that we're living in. I don't think there's any point in complaining about it. It's going to go up. It's not guitar at the level of industry where guitar companies are at. No one in the guitar industry, for the most part, is going like, inflation's going up and we can take advantage of that and just start cranking prices even though we don't need to.
Well, maybe they need to. We don't know.
They probably need to because everything just got more expensive. Cost of transportation just went up dramatically. Cost of imports. Cost
of imports. It's like 100 times more expensive now, if not 1,000 times more expensive now. Then you have boats like shipping containers sinking in the ocean.
Yep. So it's
terrible.
It is not reasonable to think that anybody in the guitar industry is acting maliciously in their price points. By and large. I can think of maybe some examples where maybe I could speculate. It's not worth getting into.
We know it has been done before. Sure,
but that's not the majority.
Yeah. I mean, there are kind of sweet spots for like when you price your equipment, your gear, because like there are prices that you have to charge to be seen as like legitimate for like boutique guitars, boutique pedals, because if you charge under a certain amount, you're seen as cheap. So you have to charge
just
over
kind of
a certain
assume that you don't
amount.
know what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's
So
a
you
perception
can't
thing.
like it's like, so I remember when Rick was like first getting like real jobs after he went to coding school, he's like, well, I want to ask for this amount of money because this is the amount of money I think that we need. I'm like, no, you need to ask for the amount of money that is fair for this job, because that's just how it works. So like if you build a guitar pedal and it costs you like $20 in parts, and then you kind of do like, okay, well, so it's $20 in parts, I'm going to just double that and say it's $40. That's not what the pedal should cost. It shouldn't cost $20 plus like double, because you need to account for your time, you need to account for your research, and then you need to account for the fact that people expect guitar pedals to cost more than that, especially boutique ones. And I know it, like, you'll want the guitar pedal to, like, we as consumers want the guitar pedal to cost $40. I know there are options that are $40, but a hand assembled pedal should not. It just should not. And if you start charging that little, people will feel like it's not legitimate. It's just like there's this whole like psychological element of it as well, is what I'm trying to say.
Sure. That's just part of brand analysis.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the whole thing, but that's not malicious. And the point that I'm trying to make is...
But malicious would be like if you have bought a pedal, rebranded it on AliExpress and put your name on it.
And then continue to upcharge more and more just because inflation's going up. Sure. I could see that.
Mm-hmm. No one's ever done that.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't want to go too much longer on the show, but I do want to bring up that this feels like the Christian version of like Burger Records.
Okay, then we should probably issue a content warning.
Content warning.
So maybe you could tell people what the content will contain, so they can tune out if they don't want to hear about it.
Yep. And that'll be the...
But before we get into that,
all right,
please rate and review this podcast on iTunes. And shop our merch on gossipodcast.com/shop, and like, comment, subscribe below.
Agreed to all of the above. So the content warning is sexual assault and authority figures abusing their authority, I think is probably how I'd phrase that. So Brian Houston, who's the leader of Hillsong, which is a global church organization that has been at the crux of CCM, which is contemporary Christian music, for quite some time, which is why it's relevant to the show. Very involved in the gear industry as an organization at a lot of levels. And so this guy, being the head, has driven a lot of that culture. And we all kind of know him for a while that he's problematic. There's literal charges brought against him out in Australia for covering up his father's child sex abuse allegations, which seemed pretty legitimate. Going back to the 90s, it's kind of like, okay, Dad, you're just going to quietly retire and I'll take over the church and just keep going to save the family name kind of a thing.
Oh.
But shocker, that sort of thing passes down generationally in terms of if you can get away with it, what can you get away with? So Hillsong just announced that he's stepping down and detailed a couple of incidents that have happened in the last 10 years as, like the Christianese moral failure, all completely couched in the we believe in grace and redemption and all of that, which is only conveniently used. But they're blaming his use of anxiety medication combined with alcohol beyond the prescribed level to explain for sexually harassing one woman over text, which they also didn't say sexual harassment. They just said like indecent or let me grab it. They never said that it was like explicitly sexual harassment. Everyone can read between the lines pretty easily. And then the other one was that after a conference, he had become disoriented after taking more than the prescribed dose of an anti-anxiety prescription mixed with alcohol.
I'm assuming they're going to be talking about Valium as an anti-anxiety medication is my guess, because normal. I don't think that they'd be talking about like Zoloft or Wellbutrin.
Not likely. It says also under the influence of sleeping medication. So Valium seems reasonable. Upon which he developed a dependence. So the first one, he's sexually harassing a staff member who ended up resigning, and then asked for all of their money back that they had ever donated to the church and tithes and offerings. And the church agreed to give it back, which is, I think, indicative of how damning the evidence was. And then the other incident was after a conference. Walked into someone's room, and they don't go into a lot of detail about. Let's see here. Where did it go? Second issue was 2019. Following an in-depth investigation, found that Pastor Brian became disoriented after a session at the Hillsong conference. Following the consumption of anti-anxiety medication beyond the prescribed dose mixed with alcohol resulted in him knocking on the door of a hotel room that was not his, entering this room and spending time with a female occupant. And that's all they say about it. But that's a nonsense. He wasn't responsible for his actions, but we're also removing him.
A lot of people take Valium. Also, if you take an anti-anxiety medication and Valium, you're not supposed to be drinking.
Right.
At that point, like, that is like literally like kind of your fault.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
You're responsible for your actions, whether or not you're on Valium.
I believe he was responsible for his actions. He should be held responsible as such. And the amount that it seems like he's being held responsible for currently seems drastically inadequate. Now, how does this matter for music? It matters for music in the sense that CCM is a deep part of the gear industry, whether we like it or not. And my encouragement to everybody is, particularly folks who are involved in CCM, is just be aware of who it is that you're following. Be aware of who it is whose message that you're spreading, who you're giving your licensing fees to, all of that, and toss down the idols. And we don't agree that everybody just gets a clean. You can't just like, all right, well, he did this one thing and just like move on. Like it has impact on people outside of yourself. So be aware, make good choices surrounding that information, and maybe consider not giving them your money. Just a thought.
Yeah, there are options. You don't have to give your money to organizations who have time and time again protected abusive men. Yep. Or humans, abusive people. But let's be honest, like 9 times out of 10.
Sure.
Sorry.
A tale as old as religion, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's a tale that I think is worth not participating in at any level. So for
it's
all
upsetting.
of our church listeners out there, if you're as concerned about this as I am, maybe go have a conversation with your church leadership. Be like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be singing songs that were written by Hillsong anymore and giving them the licensing fees. We should be really concerned about this. Maybe we should be making a statement about this. Maybe we should, like, there are degrees of ways that this, given that Brian is held at a very high pinnacle within that entire world, that should be addressed at a lot of levels.
What would you say to people who would say that not singing those songs doesn't make a difference and it would be performative? Because I'm sure people would make that argument.
And I think they're just looking for a reason to feel justified in not addressing it or having to face it. But
yeah, I think that's fair.
I think you can't read through the teachings of, like, just the rest of the Bible aside, like just let's look at the core teachings of Jesus. You can't read through that and then say, yeah, like covering it for abuse is like chill. Sorry, that's.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there are things that people say that's something people say all the time, like, oh, you can't, almost like putting sanctions on a church. Well, it only hurts like the rest of the church. I'm like, does it really? To not sing their songs, and no, I mean, I guess to not give them money, but like, what, you're giving money to another church? Like, that's weird. Just don't you want to give? I mean, money
at the end of the day,
church?
He's filthy rich. He will continue to be filthy rich.
Yeah, probably, because like the money is probably most likely coming out of, like, I imagine, insurance. I imagine it's not personal money.
Maybe. Other things to consider for folks who are involved is maybe don't go to Hillsong concerts, because Hillsong has several bands that go on tours, just like other bands.
Did they release an album lately, or did probably. I imagine that?
They're constantly creating new music, releasing it, going on tour with it. Maybe don't go to those shows anymore if that's how their organization is built out. It's probably not worth supporting them. Because, like, what you have to remember is if that's how it is at the top, that does tend to flow down. And if that's the behavior that's accepted, culture is almost invariably top down. Yeah. So if that's like what's accepted at the top, that's often how it is at other levels, because it's just like Andrew said, top down. Yep. So I don't want people, I think just like treating it with a little bit of healthy suspicion for a while and seeing what shakes out, seeing like what they do to, if anything, to make sure this doesn't happen again would be interesting, but it doesn't sound like they're doing anything. Yeah, it seems like they're treating this as like an isolated thing and not a culture thing. They're treating it as 2 isolated incidents in the last 10 years, and they finally said, well, 3 years after the last one, they were finally ready to say something about it. Oh, something's about to burst. Probably. Yeah, the second incident, the other one was given a date. The other one was just said 2019. That was 3 years ago. Somebody's about to say something. Somebody's about to drop a podcast or something. Like something's about to happen. Probably. That's my guess. I mean, this is also, like shortly after the wake of the, oh my God, the not Judah Smith. Judah's the church home guy. Carl Lentz. His whole falling out because he married Brian's daughter, I think, and was very involved in Hillsong in America, and ended up stepping down and getting cast out after. Oh, right. And so there's that whole Vanity Fair expose about how awful the culture at Hillsong is, and it's absolutely like from the top down. This article, Hillsong at the time was like, this is an isolated thing. Yeah, it seems real isolated. Yeah. Yeah. It seems actually not isolated at all. No. Yeah. Yeah, so it seems more systemic than anything. So, yeah, I would agree with Andrew's assessment. And I'm not the person that I'm not the religious one. I'm not the one who's normally thinking about this kind of thing. Yeah. So with that, I don't have a whole lot of emotional energy left because that's not fun to talk about, and I'm really not a fan. But did you see us on the Seymour Duncan blogs to change subjects? Yeah, I did. Neat. Thanks, Seymour Duncan. Thanks, guys. Love y'all. We love y'all. Love y'all. Cool. Well, I'm gonna go pack and go get ready for my party weekend. And by party, I mean like I'm gonna have like a couple beers tonight and then go hiking tomorrow. Getting real wild. I'm gonna eat breakfast. All right. Well, everybody out there, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for understanding. Until next time, my name is Emily. And my name is Andrew. Goodbye. Bye.